All right, I'm going to go over absolute value inequalities. Inequalities means that I have one of these symbols instead of an equal sign. We're going to treat them primarily the same, but there will be a couple of slight differences. So first thing is I want to get the absolute value alone, just like with equations. So I'm going to add 9 on this one. So once I get to this step, I can set it equal to the positive and the negative. But here's the thing, it's an inequality. So I'm going to go 2x plus 3 is less than or equal to 23. And I'm going to go 2x plus 3, flip this around, greater than or equal to negative 23. Then I'm going to solve it out. So subtract 3 and divide by 2. Subtract 3 and divide by 2. So if I'm reading this, it tells me x is less than or equal to 10. So any number smaller than 10 or 10 included, and x is greater than or equal to negative 13. That means anything bigger than or including negative 13. So what that means is it goes from negative 13 to 10. Both of those are included. So that's how I want to do that. I'm just trying to solve these out the same. So when we're solving them out, our only real difference is we flip that little inequality around when we do the negative one. All right, so first step, get the inequality alone. So, sorry, not the inequality, the absolute value. Get the absolute value alone. So I'm going to add the 3. Then I'm going to divide by 4. So now it's alone. So now I can make it a positive 1. Flip this around and make it a negative 1. Subtract the 6. Divide by 2. Subtract the 6. Divide by 2. And that's what we're doing here. So it tells me it's bigger than this and smaller than this. So this is my start, it's not included. This is my end, it's not included. All right, now the funky ones. So sometimes they'll give me something like we know that it can't be equal to a negative, but can it be more than a negative? Is there a number that I could plug in here that's going to make it so the distance from 0 is bigger than negative 2? And the answer is yes. Any number that I plug in here is going to give me a solution that is bigger than negative 2. So when we see bigger than negative, we know that it's going to be all real numbers. So I'm going to do roster notation and put the R for reals, and that's it. If it tells me less than a negative, I can't even be a negative, so there's no way I could be less than a negative. So when that happens, it's going to be an empty set. So those are two special cases, okay? Now, when we have something that tells us this one is more, it says greater, which if you noticed on the examples that I did, This one was less than or equal to. This one was less than. Well, this one's greater than. We still do the same process, but it turns out our answer is a little bit different. So I'm going to go 2x plus 3 is greater than 4 because the absolute value is already by itself. 2x plus 3 is less than negative 4. Because when I turn this negative, I flip this guy around. Subtract the 3. 2x is greater than 1. Divide by 2. X is greater than 1/2. Over here, subtract the 3. 2x is less than negative 7. Divide by 2. X is less than negative 7 over 2. It says it's less than this one and more than this one, which those aren't going together, those are going apart. So when that happens, what I need to do is I need to say, I can't do it in interval notation the same as I did these ones, where I went from here to here. What I can do is I can say, well, it's less than that, so it's going to go from negative infinity to that, not included, and it's going to go from this to infinity. So I can do both of these things. I can't put them together though, because it's impossible for me to be less than this and more than this. So that's why it's either this one or this one, okay? When we're doing this, a key to remember is more is or, which we remember because the or in more. So more is or. And what that means is we write it like this. So this started with more. Well, this should have actually been like this. I'll explain what this means in class. This means or. Well, it means union, but it means or. So more is or. And then less than is and. Then and. That one's harder to remember. More is or is the easy one. So if I have this, these guys are gonna go ors. So it's gonna be one piece, like from here to here, or from here to here. If it's these, they're coming together, so it's just gonna be from here to here. Okay, and I'll explain this a little bit more in class.